Welcome to Vintage NDEs, a channel that explores near-death experiences and other strange phenomena from over 90 years ago. The majority of these stories are sourced from newspaper articles of the day. Take a listen to just how strikingly similar they are to modern accounts of NDEs. With the constant influx of information in today's world and the ephemeral nature of newspapers, you can be sure you are the first people to hear these long-lost stories since they first appeared in print. In the following account, you will hear about a condition called catalepsy, which they used as the proper term for trance. Apparently, trances were incredibly common during this era, and it won't be the last time we hear about them. Without further ado, here is one of the most popular spiritual stories from 1903.
Girl visits heaven. Case of Mary Ye Kidder causes a great sensation at Kalamazoo. Hundreds visit her at home. Claims to go into trance during which her spirit is carried up to the celestial city where she converses with those gone before. Physicians puzzled. Kalamazoo, Michigan, November 26, 1903. Hundreds of people in the southeastern part of this city have visited the home of Mary Ye Kidder, and there is great excitement over the case of a girl who has been going into trances for the past week, during which she claims to have visited heaven and to have conversed with departed spirits. One remarkable feature is that she has talked to persons with whom she is not acquainted about seeing dead relatives whom she did not know, and some of whom have never been in Kalamazoo. One case is that of a man with whom she claims to have talked, who has been dead over 40 years. She also has predicted the death of her father and mother, saying her mother will die first and her father a few years later. Describes heaven. Mary thus describes heaven as seen in her visions.
I cannot tell just what the sensation is like. A trance strikes me suddenly. I lose control of my body and seem to be carried up almost to an unimaginable height. The air seems soft and fans my face. I fly through clouds, and then suddenly I know I'm in heaven. Above me stretches the great city, but there are no houses or streets. Beautiful white-robed angels are singing and talking and sailing through the air. I am flashed through two immense white pearly gates, and then the beauty of the whole place is before me. Colors of every description, and the most beautiful music I ever heard are on every side. I seem to know all the people there, and they come to me and talk. One spirit told me that when I died I would be free to move just as they do. I cannot understand how angels go through the air. They have no wings, neither do they walk. They just seem to be taken through the air in any direction they wish to go.
Result of disease. This strange condition of Miss Kidder is the result of disease. She has been suffering from a nervous and spinal trouble. Curvature of the spine developed in July, and her body was placed in a plaster cast. The cast was removed a week ago Monday, and then the trances began. Dr. Shalito, a reputable physician, is in charge of the case and is greatly interested. He says science would call the girl's condition due to catalepsy, but he does not attempt to explain how she is able to give names and describe persons she has never seen.
This next article about Mary Kidder appeared in the Montour American dated April the 8th, 1909, 6 years after Mary first fell into a trance. It is a lengthy article, so bear with me. It's fascinating and provides evidence that Mary's visions were real.
A strange story relating to the history of an old and prominent family of Montour County has found its way east from Kalamazoo, Michigan. It recalls the sudden disappearance of Jacob Rischel from his home near Kalamazoo, who moved west from Montour County in the early 1860s, and clears up at least to some degree the mystery in which his disappearance for 30 years was enshrouded. Jacob Rischel, the subject of this story, was a son of Solomon Rischel and was born in Mahoning Township on the farm just east of Danville, now owned by Dr. Pauls. He grew to manhood on the homestead farm and prepared to settle down to the life of a farmer when he was suddenly seized with the desire to move to Michigan. All this was many years ago. When he moved west he was already married, the maiden name of his wife being Mary Heimbach, whose home was on the farm in Cooper Township now owned by Prothonotary Thomas G. Vincent. There was one child in the family. Emo to our county relatives. Jacob Rischel had 5 brothers who remained behind in Montour County: Washington, Ephraim, David, Peter, and William Rischel. He had also 2 sisters, Mrs. Jacob Hartzell, who remained in this section, and Mrs. Jonas Maury, who removed to 3 Rivers, Michigan. At the present all are dead with the exception of Mrs. Maury. Jacob Rischel bought land in Brady Township near Vicksburg, Michigan. His family increased and he prospered. 11 children were born to Mr. and Mrs. Rischel. The family was accounted among the well-to-do people of the community. In 1877, Mrs. Rischel died. The care of the farmhouse was left to the daughters, of whom there were 8, and the care of the farm to the 3 sons, while the father worked at the Vicksburg grist mill as a carpenter. His strange disappearance. During the winter of 1879, the relatives and friends of Jacob Rischel in Montour County were pained to learn that on the 15th of January of that year, he had suddenly dropped out of sight. His disappearance was most unaccountable. The state of Michigan was aroused over the disappearance, and every effort was put forth to locate the man, but without avail. Finally, the conviction became general that the man was dead. Some thought that he had fallen a victim to foul play, while others adhered to the belief that, alone he had undertaken to walk across the ice when he suddenly broke through and was swallowed up. The years went by. Breaks in the little group by death or marriage came one by one, and soon the family was scattered broadcast. No one entertained the least doubt but that he was dead, and estates in Montour County were closed without his being called upon to be present. Seen in a vision. In process of time, Mary Elizabeth Rischel, one of the eldest of the children, married, her husband being John Kidder. After a time, the married couple took up their home at 618 First Street, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Mr. and Mrs. Kidder have a daughter, Mary, who, in 1903, when little more than a child, was taken sick, her ailment being nervous and spinal troubles. While suffering from these ailments on several occasions, the girl fell into a trance, becoming clairvoyant. On awaking on each occasion, she told of the strange visions she had beheld, often describing accurately things that she was supposed to have no knowledge of, so that finally the family could not doubt but that while in a trance she had the power of discerning things not present to the senses. Finally, after Jacob Rischel had been missing 24 years, and all hope of ever seeing him alive had been abandoned, Mary Kidder, on awaking from one of her trances, amazed her parents by telling them that she had seen her grandfather and that he was alive. She had been carried, she said, to a hamlet in the mountains of California, and there had seen her grandfather, Jacob Rischel. He was standing among piles of boxes and was ready to move from that region. The girl had never seen the grandfather in the flesh and had only heard of him in a casual way. After this strange revelation, hope was rekindled in the bosoms of the Kidder family. All others, however, remained firm in the conviction that the man was dead. Jacob Rischel heard from. There were still many years of waiting, then less than 3 weeks ago, like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky, came the positive information that Jacob Rischel was alive. A letter from the missing man, now 83 years of age, addressed to Brady Township, fell into the hands of Jacob Rischel, one of the sons who had continued to reside near Vicksburg. The old man stated that he was fast losing his eyesight and that he longed to return to his old home. He was living at Delta, Colorado. He had removed from California about the time that he was seen by Mary Kidder in a vision, surrounded by a pile of boxes ready to move. Dies before son's arrival. As soon as Jacob Rischel received the letter from his father, he left for Delta, Colorado. It was now believed that the great mystery would be cleared up, that the cause of Jacob Rischel's appearance would be made known, and that light would be thrown on his subsequent career. But alas, no sooner had the son stepped from the train at Delta than he was informed by a resident that the elder Rischel was dead, that he had died only 15 minutes before the train's arrival. The day before, he was assisting to remove some furniture preparatory to returning to Vicksburg with his son when he slipped on the stairs and fell heavily to the floor. The shock proved fatal. Thus, the mystery will never be cleared. The son found that the father was living in good circumstances. His former thrift had followed him, and he had a nice bank account. He had changed but little in appearance, and the son, who was young when the father left home, easily recognized him from photographs. The body was shipped to Michigan, and the funeral was held from the old home at Vicksburg on Sunday, March 38th. Former County Commissioner George M. Liao, whose wife is a first cousin of the man who strangely disappeared, yesterday stated that he was an intimate friend and associate of Jacob Rischel before the latter removed to Michigan, and that, in the year of his departure, the two were working together all winter.
Mary's full name was Mary Aurelia Kidder, and she was born in 1889, making her 14 years old in 1903. She apparently made a full recovery and married Robert Bowers in 1917. They had one child in 1920, who died at birth, with Mary passing away in 1970 at age 80. This was one of the most reprinted stories in 1903. I've verified the story about her grandfather, and it seems to all be true. She also impressed many of her contemporaries with unknowable information, the most impressive being the whereabouts of her long-lost grandfather. During her interview, she claimed that her mother would die first, with her father following a few years later. But it was in fact the opposite that happened. Her father died in 1922 and her mother in 1929. Do you think Mary misunderstood what she was told? Did she make it up? Or did the interviewer record it wrong? We'll never truly know. As always, leave any and all comments below, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button.